The Gilded Age, also known as the Age Coated in Gold, was an important part of American history, starting in the 1870s and ending in the early 1900s. It was a time of new beginnings for the American people. The economy was bustling, and the wealthy, luxurious lifestyle became very prominent in America. People living in the Gilded Age were able to witness the rapid economic change that their country experienced. Big corporations were also on the rise, which was extremely beneficial to the economy. The American dream gave hope to people around the world, and many immigrants left for America in the hopes that they would get another, much better shot at life. The Gilded Age was a time that called for constant change in business strategies in order to keep the economy going. Big business owners found success in the strategies that they created. One such businessman was a man named Andrew Carnegie. Because of the many innovations he had made in the steel industry, he is considered one of the most influential businessmen of the Gilded Age. Andrew Carnegie's innovative business strategies had a huge impact on businesses and workers. Business was developing at a rate where strategies needed to be changed in order to sustain profits in an increasingly unstable economy. However, as businesses grew bigger and more successful, industrial workers started to suffer. Although the workers made businesses successful, their lives were impacted because of the low wages they received, which caused them to go through a financial crisis and made it hard for them to pay for resources and household living. Andrew Carnegie was born on November 25, 1835, in Dunfermline, Scotland. In 1848, when Carnegie was only 13 years old, he and his family moved over to America, settling in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. Carnegie soon found himself working in a factory for a measly $1.20 a week.
Child laborers put in just as much work as their older counterparts and got even less for their efforts. The chances of your average person moving up from the world were very, very slim. That's just how things were during the Gilded Age.
As it turns out, however, Carnegie would not be living among the unlucky for long. He worked his way up, and in 1853, Carnegie became the assistant and telegrapher of one of the top officials of the Pennsylvania Railroad, Thomas Scott. This experience helped Carnegie learn much about the world of business, propelling his career forward.
Eventually, I left the railroads in order to pursue a career in the industry I would later spend most of my life working in, steel manufacturing. My work truly began in 1873. I used two tactics to gain power in the business. I often bought out suppliers of raw materials, and I was also able to get many companies with similar products to merge with my own. My business tactics eventually led me to having almost full control of the steel industry. However, I do know that one day I'm going to have to give everything back. Businessmen like me have taken so much from society, so it's our job to make sure that they get something back. So in return, I'm going to be donating to museums, because I care for the education of future generations. As for my workers, I feel as if the amount of money I'm giving them is more than enough. If I were to give them an increase in wages, they might spend the money on pointless, meaningless items, like whiskey or something. I can't have my money go to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. So that's why I think the amount of money I give them is more than enough.
Like many others in the industry, Carnegie prioritized efficiency regardless of the effect it would have on the workers. Factory equipment was constantly being replaced, and so Carnegie would simply cut the workers' wages in order to make the money back. The Homestead Mill is also a good example of how little Carnegie cared for his workers. Workers at the Homestead Mill came in and worked 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, with few breaks. Workers are only given one day off, the 4th of July. The rest of the year is filled with hard labor.
I lost 40 pounds the first 3 months I came into this business. It sweats the life out of a man. I often drink 2 buckets of water during 12 hours. Sweat drips through my sleeves and runs down my legs and fills my shoes. We stop only the time it takes to oil the engine. While they are oiling, they eat. At least some of the boys, some of them. A great many of them in the mill do not carry anything to eat at all because they haven't got time to eat.
Like many other workers, Carnegie's workers were forced to work in factories where the risk of injury was always high.
Sometimes a chain breaks and a ladle tips over and the iron explodes. Sometimes the slag falls on the workman. Of course, if everything is working all smooth and a man watches out, why, alright. But you take it after they've been on duty 12 hours without sleep and running like hell, everybody tired and loggy, and it's a different story.
Carnegie's workers grew tired of the ongoing injustice, so in response, they went on strike. Motives for the strikes included low wages, seemingly endless hours, dangerous and unsanitary working conditions, and the misconduct of the workers. The most notable strike took place in Homestead, Pennsylvania in 1892, known as the Homestead Strike. Carnegie was in Scotland at the time, so he left his partner, Henry Frick, in charge of the Homestead Mill. This strike is infamous for the massacre that took place.
The actions Frick took to put an end to the strike resulted in the deaths of many. Frick sent in 300 Pinkerton guards to suppress the strike. It is important to note that only 1/5 of the workers went on strike, which is about 160 workers. For Frick to send in 300 guards was simply, to put in lighter terms, unnecessary. It ultimately led to the death of 9 strikers and 7 guards, leaving some strikers seriously injured. Following the events of the strike, Andrew Carnegie expressed his thoughts.
Oh, that Homestead blunder, but it's fading as all events do, and we are at work selling steel, 1 pound for half a penny.
To me, Andrew Carnegie's response just sums up his personality as a businessman. All he cares about is making money.
Andrew Carnegie left behind one of the most significant legacies of the Gilded Age. Carnegie changed the way that steel would be made, making the steel industry much more efficient and profitable. He also industrialized the method in which buildings would be made in modern society. However, despite being known as a great businessman and philanthropist, there is no doubt that Andrew Carnegie, in regards to the lives and working conditions of the people who worked for him, was uncaring and irresponsible, turning a blind eye to the injustices of the workplace in favor of maximizing profits.